I'm showing 1:30. Chris, you want to go ahead and start the recording?
Okay, we're set.
All right, good afternoon. This is a special meeting of the Montana Board of Public Education. Today is June 22nd, 2026. We are meeting via Zoom for a sole agenda item. I'll call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. And the flag is my profile pic. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, Chris, will you please call the roll?
Board Member Maxwell,
Here.
Board Member Rasmussen. I know she's
Sorry,
there.
here.
Board Member Schmidt,
Here.
Board Member Neeskin,
Here.
Board Member Mills,
Here.
Vice Chair Slinger,
Here.
Chair Tharp,
Here,
Student Representative Comstock,
excused.
Commissioner Christian's office, Governor Gianforte's office, Superintendent Helen.
Here.
Thank you, Chris. The Board of Public Education encourages the public to participate in board discussions. Persons who wish to participate should sign up. Oh, I'm not sure how do we do sign in on click the chat button in order to voice their opinions and state their public comments. Anyone wishing to participate will be recognized by the chair in keeping with normal board parliamentary procedure. We discourage public comment on personnel matters. Ask that you discuss these in private with the board chair. Montana Board of Public Education is a professional development unit provider. Attending a Board of Public Education meeting may qualify you to receive professional development units. Please complete the necessary information on the sign-in sheet to let McCall know if you're applying for professional development units. With that, I'd like to welcome any visitors. I'm not sure, we'll probably just recognize them when it comes to public comment and acknowledge them at that time. I entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
I'll make that motion, sir.
Vice Chair Slinger with a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Renee has let Lisa take that one. Any discussion? Any public comment on the adoption of the agenda? Let the record show I see our student member, Lydia Comstock, has joined the meeting. There's see no public comment. All in favor of adoption of the agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have an agenda. Our lone agenda item is under the assessment committee, and I know that they met late last week, and so we'll hand things over to assessment committee chair Rasmussen. Renee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're here to take action on the superintendent's recommendations for modification to the single system of statewide assessment. You'll remember that this is our charge, is that we are to approve all modifications to the assessment. And Mr. Chair, would you prefer me to start with a motion and then we can discuss that? Or would you prefer to have some background information first and then a motion?
Why don't you go ahead and give a background summary, and then go ahead and proceed with a motion, and then we'll discuss from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Neeskins, please jump in anytime I forget something. Make notes so that you can add to what I forget. I'll start with we have after last meeting we requested information from the OPI about this motion and about specifically where they were in the process, specifically addressing some of the concerns that had been voiced to the Board of Public Ed about the adaptation of this of the mass test. Many of you will be familiar with those because we've had them in our packets. We have had testimony online. Dr. Watson, for one, has given several summaries of some of the concerns from the field about the mass test. Those things are again available for those of you online in our agenda items, and for you, those of you also who have printed off the packet. When we got all the material from OPI, it was a lot of material, and board member Neeskins took the opportunity to use Chat GPT. No, what did you use? Chat GPT, Hannah? Chat GPT to analyze the information for trends. What she did was ask to download this. She downloaded all the stakeholder feedback and looked at asked ChatGPT, who would not be as emotional as the rest of us about this, one way or the other, to analyze for trends. What was really important about those, or eye-opening for me, was the first couple of key trends that ChatGPT got from the student surveys, the teacher surveys, the administrative feedback, the stakeholder surveys, the education first analysis. There were patterns that emerged, and the first couple I'd like to talk to you about, the stakeholder trend perceptions are improving year over year. That tells us one thing, that the test is getting better and that new tests take time. I've expressed that several times, but stakeholder perceptions are improving. The strongest trend is that many measures improved from 25 to 26. Teachers reported better alignment to curriculum, better scores, and more opportunity. The second positive notation by ChatGPT was students generally liked the concept of through-year testing. That was something that I had not heard reported by anyone. The student data is stable year after year. 79% of the students prefer the small tests over the one large end of the year test. So there are other items under that. The administration of the test is viewed more favorably than reporting and instructional use, which we didn't realize that the administration of the test was, I didn't realize that the administration of the test was viewed more favorably at all. So those were positives. There were some things that ChatGPT found that were areas of concern. And the biggest one was trust and usefulness of the data. That is not new to us. That is something that many people have been talking about for quite a while. That appeared, according to ChatGPT, in nearly every data set. The feedback loop remains too weak was another concern, meaning the reporting of scores, the seeing of scores, the availability of scores, and we have heard that from the field in many different ways. The testing burden, number 3, remains a concern, according to ChatGPT, and that's nothing that's new to us. People have identified the testing burden, the time, the length, the makeups, all those kinds of things to be burdens. So that was not new either. Maybe less prominent in our discussions, but nevertheless, we've heard it before, was professional development remains insufficient. That's what ChatGPT found in all the summaries. Only 32% of the people believe they received sufficient training to use MAST effectively for feedback. So that remains a concern, and one that we had seen elsewhere, but probably not as prominently as 32% indicates. There was also a concern about cultural relevance and local context, especially probably in reference to Native American students. And I think that the last time that we met, that OPI really addressed that particular concern quite well. Improvement is warranted, and ChatGPT came up with a few recommendations that that are available. Make instructional usefulness the primary success metric. Improve score reports. because teachers want faster results, clear reports, growth measures, actionable next steps, and better connections to standards and instructions. Just an aside from me personally, the actionable next step and the better connections to standards and instructions, I feel that will come as I personally feel that would come as the test gains of experience and years of use. Build educator trust in the data. That's gonna be some lift, but that can be done. We'll talk about professional development. Trust is the largest barrier there. Requires structured feedback conversations. Schools should encourage to establish routines where everyone, all the stakeholders, get to see the results in a setting where they can make the most use of them, and expand professional learning on focused instructional use. So those are some of the things that ChatGPT noted. Hannah, I'd like to ask you to add to the quick summary that I provided.
That was very thorough, Chair Rasmussen. I guess I would just add that the reason I utilized that tool was because we've been provided hundreds of pages of information, and it was certainly a lot of data. And I guess I felt like it was important to analyze all of the information we had been given for trends. We've heard a lot of personalized accounts that certainly support some of the findings, but I think trying to find the strengths as well as the challenges was important to me, just because there definitely are strengths in and amongst the challenges, and I think it's important to recognize that we have some strengths to build off of.
Thank you. Any comments? Anybody have any comments on what we've talked about so far, the background kind of information to our topic today?
I think that was a great summary. I appreciate the chair of our AI committee, Dr. Neeskens, utilizing AI. And perhaps she could teach me how to best utilize that tool for our work as well. So Chair Rasmussen, if you're ready for a motion, we could get this on the table and discuss it as a board.
I am ready, Mr. Chair. It is quite a long motion with a couple of parts, and so I will state it. If anyone wants me to restate it, I will. I'll take it kind of slowly. I move to conditionally approve the superintendent's recommended modifications to the system of statewide assessment for math and ELA. Approval is conditioned upon the Office of Public Instruction, in consultation with this board, creating a task force comprised of testing experts, educators, and appropriate stakeholders to refine the assessment to better achieve the following purposes: make instructional usefulness a primary measure of success, improving classroom instruction and student outcomes; boost the efficacy of score reports and reporting process; limit testing burdens and enhance structured feedback routines; expand opportunities for professional development focused on instructional use; and build educator trust in the data.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
I would second.
Seconded by Dr. Neeskens. All right, board member discussion. Yes, probably before even there, Superintendent Hedeland, is this something that's going to work for your purposes and the OPI is going to be able to do?
Absolutely. I think that this makes sense, and a lot of this work, the areas you listed off, are priorities that we're working on, and we would love input and collaboration with the Board of Public Ed, of course. So my thought would be to meet with the assessment committee again, if you are able, before the next official Board of Public Ed meeting, and talk about, we can kind of work on a framework or design for this group and a name and all of that good stuff, and take a stab at which members may be critical or important, and see what you guys think and get some feedback. And then we could have a joint proposal for the July Board of Public Ed meeting to present as an information or action item or whatever you see fit. If that works for you, we would like to move forward in that direction. I think we all share the common desire of improving mass to make it most effective and workable for the field. We definitely want this to be an assessment that helps improve instruction and educational outcomes in Montana. We also understand that, you know, it's a federal requirement attached to our title funding and other important funding streams, and assessments can be challenging and can be, you know, something that is hard. It's with all the assessments we've had, you know, throughout my tenure in education also, you know, it's hard to do makeup tests. It's hard, all of that, even when we had the former tests. But so we're always going to have some of those obstacles. And the data is important though, and it's important that we make the most of it. We'd love to make sure that the great thing about it being a Montana-based assessment is that we can alter those reports to make them the best possible for communicating and make sure that language is very clear. So I am excited about the updates we've made. I think more involvement to make it even better and stronger, and make sure we have the field and the Board of Public Ed and everyone involved as we make these improvements would be welcomed and helpful. So would like to move forward.
Thank you, Superintendent Hedlund. And the work that you've already done with the accreditation think tanks and you took the work that we started as a board with the accreditation changes. Well, obviously started with the OPI to make the Chapter 55 changes, which then came to the board for our tweaks and edits, and then now back to the OPI for the operations of it. I think that the field and education in Montana greatly benefited from those think tanks and all of that great work that your staff put into making it the best possible accreditation system that it could be. And I look forward to that same style of work and that same excellence with an assessment program as well. Other board members?
Mr. Chair, Lisa Smith has her hand up. I'll speak afterwards.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead, Board Member Schmidt.
Thank you. You know, every time we talk about this, I mention some kind of growth measurement, and I think being able to measure growth within the year of each student within the year would certainly would help our instructional usefulness. So I would really love to see the growth aspect of mass addressed, and this really was reaffirmed in my mind when I read the revised New Meridian contract, and when they started talking about the growth reports, I was not impressed by that, by the revised contract. So can we make sure and emphasize growth as a way to improve instructional usefulness as well?
Superintendent Hedlund, you have a comment to that?
Yes, that's definitely been a priority. The TAC has been meeting on it, and I'm not sure if you got to see the presentation of the new growth metrics, but it was pretty phenomenal, I thought. It gets very technical and scientific very fast. And I'm not a psychometrician, but I was pretty impressed with the way that they are working together as a team, including those in the, in TAC. And we do have the growth measures being added. I do have a date here somewhere. I was just trying to find real quick. so the growth metrics will be rolled out for the 26-27 school year. So they are being vetted through the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, which, you know, Dr. Watson formerly sat on, and many of us have been involved with over the years. But that has that real technical expertise around the table there to vet. So that gets back to that question about the validity of the data and whatnot. That's why we run all of this through the TAC, and we also have national members taking a look at this. So we are excited to implement the growth measures. We heard that from the field and made that a priority.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to say that I was not surprised at any of the areas of concern that came up with ChatGPT. Those are things that that we have heard, but not only that, those are things that I would expect on a new test. Some of us have been around long enough that when we started our career, we were still doing the Iowa tests of basic skills, Mr. Tharp. And so we've gone through this process several times. While I do think that this is the first time that this is really a completely Montana made and designed test, you know, so I'm not surprised that there are problems and concerns. I'm just not surprised. I think that we have a tendency, at least I have a tendency, to compare a new test and where it is with the familiarity of the last years of an old test. And by that time, we had known lots of ways to handle things, lots of ways to garner information. You know, we didn't expect anything it couldn't do because we'd gotten used to that. This is all new. I really, well, I'm an optimist, but I really look for, as we become better at this test, as we understand what it can do, what its possibilities are, how to use it, how to add additional measures. I really feel that this has the potential to be quite revolutionary and quite good. That's not to say that I think it is now, because I don't. But I think that's the nature of building something brand new. I'm concerned about where we are right this moment, especially as we're using this as our federal reporting requirement. I understand we don't, there's, you know, we have to have one. So I'm concerned about that, but I also see that there's possibility for the future. And I like that part. I do like that part. So that's why I made the motion, and I'm willing to make the motion to conditionally approve these modifications.
Thank you. Other board member comments? Dr. Neeskens.
Yes, I think it's really important to note the difference between the Technical Advisory Committee and the vision for the think tank. Because we had these discussions in committee, and I would like to kind of make them part of the public record. There might be members of the audience or people who watch this later who think, well, there's already a Technical Advisory Committee. Why would the think tank be any different? What is their focus? What's the objective of the think tank? And so, to my mind, the Technical Advisory Committee, which has existed to this point, is responsible for reviewing the technical quality and methodology of the testing. It was convened by OPI, who has, you know, appointed membership into that committee. It doesn't have an advocacy focus, and it's advisory in nature, but it's focused more on technical questions and recommendations and reviews. From that psychometric standpoint, a lot of information there that they've reviewed that we're just now starting to see. I contrast that with the think tank vision, which is very much in keeping with what OPI did for accreditation, which is a group that is generating ideas to improve the product. And they are advocating potentially for changes which they think will improve MAST. It focusing more on end user output and experience rather than on the technical aspect of test development. And so I just want to draw a distinction there that I do think the think tank will serve a different purpose than the technical advisory committee. And I would hope that OPI has demonstrated success with this for the accreditation model, just really listening very carefully to users and their experiences and how accreditation could be improved. And I really feel like this could be a very important experience for MAST as well, to get to a place where educator trust in the assessment and the data that it's generating is genuinely useful for driving classroom instruction.
Thank you for that. And I echo your optimism with that. I'm thinking back to what you just said about educator trust in the system and how we have more support and trust in the accreditation system than we ever had in the last 30 years that I've been involved with it. And that was because of that process. And to be able to have that same buy-in and trust statewide on our assessment model, it's pretty exciting to think about, what we can continue to accomplish. Vice Chair Slinger.
Thank you, Chair Tharp. So when looking through all the data, I guess I see a couple different things. I see a lot of conflicting data, but I also see opportunity. So when you have nearly 80% of your students saying they prefer a smaller test over a large one, which really doesn't surprise me. No one likes large tests, but that is such a phenomenal opportunity. But then a little bit further down, we're told that only 56% of them report they've never even seen their score reports. And 40% report they've never found out how they ever performed on any of these tests. So there's a phenomenal opportunity and we're missing it by a very large amount. So I'm excited about the work. I think I know no one I've talked to that doesn't agree that through year assessment is really a great concept, but it has to be done correctly. It has to be an all in. It does us no good to have a through year if the reports aren't being used, and the students don't see the results, and teachers just ignore them. So as this moves forward, I just really feel these stipulations I think are really important. And I think to anything and everything that can be done to raise the confidence and engagement of the use of the data by our schools is imperative. And for us to try and take advantage of the situation here where there is excitement. And I understand, I actually had this epiphany the other day when I understand it's a lot of testing. And I understand that when you actually take a once a year summative test and change it into a bunch of through year tests, you're gonna have that many more absences and makeup tests. And it's naturally going to be more work. It just is. I don't care how efficient you are. I don't care how wraparound services, this and that. You just have that many more testing windows where students could be absent that they need to retest and need to be engaged. And that just causes more work, more scheduling, everything. And I fully recognize that. And but I think if we're truly committed to through year assessment and trying to improve academics that way, it's part of that process. It's just part of what happens with that mechanism. So I don't like it, but I accept that that's just something that naturally is going to occur when you go from 1 to 10 or more with the entire student body. It's difficult. So this long ramble is really about, let's try and take advantage of the opportunity. Let's try and be as engaging as possible to try and get the confidence level up with our teachers, administrators in the assessment. And for goodness sakes, if we're going to do through year, we have to commit to it, and we have to get the information to the students, and we have to get it to the instruction. So, because then it's not through year. There's actually, we're worse off because there's not a cemetery. There is, and now we're not even doing through year. So I'm glad your stipulations. I think that's probably the only way I could see myself voting for this. And I truly appreciate, I know that OPI cares, and I know that they are trying to do their very best. And I'm grateful for that. And hopefully, by taking some of these steps, we can really come up with a just that much better all-in process.
Thank you, Dr. Slinger. And well, Renee and I have been around a while, and neither one of us were there when they brought in the Iowa basics, but I'm going to assume that at some point somebody said, Iowa, what does Iowa have to do with Montana? Why are we even bothering with that? And so change is tough. Superintendent Hedelin.
Yeah, just wanted to do a brief follow-up. I just wanted to make sure also to share that all of the feedback that we've gotten, we have compiled and also done a check for themes on those and put them into categories. So we had about 20 different areas identified that we wanted to improve. And, you know, I think that there were some critical steps missed during the rollout. And that's when I came into this position and said, you know, we really need to get teacher knowledge up, and we really need to empower them to utilize this assessment with the flexibilities that it has that can be incredible for instructional decisions and for data literacy and talks. And Dr. Slinger, you were absolutely correct about that. So that's part of this program that we have going with teachers now. Like I said, I don't know if you heard me say previously, I'm trying to remember which meeting it was. We had more teachers sign up than we had spots available for. And we are using funding to host these. So we are looking at doing a second cohort, and we were, you know, we did look into purchasing more seats for the educators. We were excited to see that many were interested. And some of them were in districts that seemed to be struggling a little bit more with MAST. So we were hopeful from that. And these are the kind of conversations that they're having in those core cohorts and in these instructional models, these professional development models with teachers. And we did have a whole cohort of educators at the Summer Institute last week that were meeting just to gain more knowledge and understanding on MAST. Those were really well-attended sessions. So that's exactly what we're after. Also needing to include administrators in that loop. I think it was really just testing coordinators that initially were informed and brought into those conversations as MAST rolled out. So we did have to back up and put a plan in place, and we still have a lot of ground to gain, as you mentioned, but we are definitely heading in that direction and look forward to working with the think tank or advisory group, however we format that, and decide what you guys want to call it. We look forward to having a collaborative group to help guide those future steps as well.
Thank you, Susie. Board Member Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to echo what Susie said, one of the strengths that was identified of MAST was the strong stakeholder engagement efforts by OPI. And I think that needs to be noted, as well as continued refinement based upon feedback. And so echoing your statement, OPI, the analysis showed that those are true and were noted, Susie. So I wanted to headline that. I also wanted to say that I think that by tackling all of this and kind of getting this into a sort of a format and with people understanding better how to use it, how to take advantage of it, how to better get feedback to parents and students, that is a really a critical precursor to considering any other area for math to be used as a test. I just think that we need to get this right and first. And that's my own personal opinion, but thank you for allowing me to state it.
Thank you. Other board member comments? Dr. Neeskens?
Just wondering about, because I've been asked about this and I don't know the answer. So just for the sake of clarity, I understand the federal accountability requirements and that certainly we have to have a state test that meets national federal standards so that we obviously don't lose federal funding. What are the implications as far as funding that are implied in this vote today? So for example, if the board were to approve the modifications to the test, does OPI have funding in place to support these modifications now and in the future? Is this grant funded or how is it being funded? And then similarly, on the flip side, if there was to be a no vote, what sort of funding ramifications does that have for our state and potentially our districts?
Superintendent Hedlund?
Yeah, that's a huge question. And I don't want to be quoted with any misinformation. So that's so I'm going to speak at a high level. And if we need to get more technical, I can work on getting you a precise response on that. But we do have grant funding right now through this CGSA grant that the OPI was awarded, which was very competitive and I think why, our team's very passionate about this work that they've done and continue to do and, look forward to jumping on these opportunities to improve and take this information in. So we do have funding to continue to work on the assessment. The state does not provide any funding for 3rd through 8th grade testing. It is all federally funded. And the design of the test was through the grant. The design and of the creation of this test was through the grant funding. However, if we do not have a test in place or meet the required threshold of the number of students taking the assessment that we are declaring and has been approved as our statewide assessment, we are in a position to lose federal funding. Same with schools that do not comply with meeting that threshold. So,
and this is like title funding and federal funds in general, right?
Correct. So all of our federal funding would be at stake for school districts, title funding, all federal funds. And if you think about that, we have, just so many components. Carl Perkins, Title IV, technology, safe schools, all of that funding.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other board member comments or questions? Okay, we will move on to public comment. Member of the public, McCall, can you give them directions if they don't know how to be recognized?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For those in the attendees, if you just raise your hand, I will go one by one and I'll allow you to speak. We'll start with Dr. Erin Ellis.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
Yes, go ahead, Erin.
Chair Tharp and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
and thank you for your service on the Board of Public Education. My name is Dr. Erin Ellis. That's Ellis, and I serve as the Director of Curriculum and Assessment for Hellgate Elementary School District in Missoula. I also serve on Montana's Assessment Implementation Committee and support professional learning related to MAST through the OPI Teacher Leader Cohort, which has allowed me to view MAST from implementation, educator, and classroom perspectives. I'm speaking today in support of Montana's MAST assessment, the Montana Aligned to Standards through Year Assessment. In my role, I spend a great deal of time helping educators make sense of assessment data and use the information to improve instruction of students. For students. One of the ongoing challenges with a traditional end-of-year assessment is timing. By the time traditional state assessment results arrive in the fall, those students who generated that data are already sitting in someone else's classroom, limiting the ability to respond in meaningful ways. What I appreciate about MAST assessment is that it moves us toward a more responsive system. Rather than relying on a single snapshot at the end of the year, MAST provides opportunities to gather information throughout the school year, aligned with standards that we teach. This allows educators to better identify student needs, adjust instruction, and provide support while learning is still happening. I also appreciate that Montana has taken a thoughtful approach to implementation by engaging educators and stakeholders throughout the process. Assessment systems should do more than measure performance. They should provide meaningful, actionable information that educators can use to support teaching and learning. No assessment system is perfect, and implementation always requires continued learning and refinement. But I believe MAST represents meaningful progress towards an assessment system that is more useful for schools, more responsive to student needs, and better aligned with improving outcomes for Montana students. MAST is not valuable simply because it is new or different. It is valuable because it gives us the opportunity to respond to student needs while learning is still happening, rather than after the opportunity to intervene has passed. For those reasons, I support continued commitment to refining this and strengthening MAST so that assessment remains focused on what matters most: improving teaching, supporting learning, and helping Montana students succeed. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. And for the record, Erin is also a commissioner to the Education Commission of the States representing the state of Montana. Look forward to seeing you at our national convention in DC in a couple of weeks, Erin.
As am I. Thank you.
Other public comment online.
Superintendent Dreisen, you should be able to speak now.
Greetings, Matt Dreesen, D as in Donald, Riessen, and I am the superintendent at DeSmet Elementary. I'd like to not repeat what Dr. Ellis said, but I concur with everything that she brought forward, and I think that that's super important. There's another couple pieces I'd like to bring up. One of them is we've moved from one testing to another testing, and we're now using MAST. If we move again, you're going to lose your credibility. At a certain point, you just have to say, this is the horse that the wagon is hitched to, and we're going to make this work. And I believe that through efforts at OPI and within all the schools, all this is going to be worked out, all the little issues that we are running into. I think that there's something else that that we need to bring up, and that is, and I'll bring this up real quick. When I came into DeSmet 10 years ago, we were in the bottom 5% of districts in the state of Montana, and we're now one of the top 5% in math and top 20% in science, and strongly above average in ELA. And that didn't happen by accident. That happened by making data-driven decisions. And when we can have more points of data to look at throughout the year, we can make more decisions faster to affect a child's education in a meaningful way. Part of that is MAST and a state standard. The other part of that is going to be other assessments like STAR or MAPS or AIMS, and those assessments are going to give us that growth picture. So, for example, if I'm a school district and I have a high MAST score, but I have low growth score, we probably can derive from that the kids are not growing who are coming in there, and that we might want to take a look at how we can create more engaging instruction. If I have a high math score and a high growth score, then I have a school that's hitting on all cylinders. If I have a low math score and a low growth score, that would be a school that would probably could use some help in trying to figure out how to realign their curriculum to instruction, how to make classes more engaging. Those two things have to kind of work together. And I think it's important that we find a way that we can publicly let out our growth scores also for people to make a meaningful choice sometimes when it comes to education. And then something else that Ms. Ellis brought in, but I wanted to kind of reiterate, is that we need the ability to retest. If you're going to ask us to reteach, the kids took a test in this module, they failed, the teacher goes back and readdresses the losses, there should be an opportunity for that class or that group to retest on that module. And I think that's something that we need to take a look at. So I want to thank you guys for all the hard work that you put into this. Testing is always difficult. It's always scary. No one likes being judged, from the children to the legislators who are making the decision. So thank you for your hard work. You're doing a good job, and we'll make this reflective of how great Montana is as an education state. We are one of the best, and our scores should reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Other public comment online?
Mr. Chair, I'm not seeing any other hands up. If you'd like to make public comment, please raise your hand now.
People come another few seconds here. I will restate the motion as I have, as I understand it. Is the move is to conditionally approve the superintendent's recommended modifications to the statewide system of assessment for math and ELA. Approval is conditioned upon the OPI in consultation with the board, creating a task force comprised of testing experts, educators, and appropriate stakeholders to refine the assessment to better achieve the following purposes. Number one, make instructional usefulness a primary measure of success, improving classroom instruction and student outcomes. Number two, boost the efficacy of score reports and the reporting process. 3, limit testing burdens and enhance structured feedback routines. 4, expand opportunities for professional development focused on instructional use. And 5, build educator trust in the data. That being restated, one final shot here. I don't want anybody to be left out fighting the tech. Any other public comment? Any final board member comment before we go to a vote? I thank everybody for the rich discussion. Appreciate the public comment, as well as for the record, also note that some significant amount of public comment was received online and is part of the record, and that written public comment submitted by Dr. Watson representing Sam and others, and so that is part of the record. If there's nothing else, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as has been discussed and stated signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Now, any public comment on anything that falls under the purview of this board, not necessarily on the agenda? All right.
Not saying anything, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And as Superintendent Hedlund said, she will be in contact with and work through McCall and the assessment committee to find an appropriate time for us to work together and start getting this all ironed out. And I appreciate everybody's time. McCall, do you want to bring us up to speed on our next regular meeting, which is our 3-day meeting? Let's see, it looks like July 22nd is our start date.
Sure, Mr. Chair. July 22nd through the 24th, the board will be meeting here in Helena. We'll be meeting at the Capitol in room 317 for all 3 days, so you can expect to be there. We did have to pull some strings, so if you see Mr. Jerry Howe, please say thank you to him. We'll be doing strategic planning majority of the day on the 22nd, if not the full day. And then on the 23rd, we'll reconvene our normal meeting, and we'll be doing our joint meeting with Macy that afternoon.
All right. Very good. I want to thank everybody for their time and their effort and all of their attention. It's been quite the significant issue for us to work through. I certainly appreciate my old friend Susie Hedelin and all of the work that she is doing to put this together and to make this work out. And as I've mentioned earlier, we've seen amazing success with accreditation, and I look forward to additional success with assessment, as well as with Susie's leadership, we take education to the next level in Montana. And with that, the Board of Public Ed will stand adjourned, and I show the time is 2:20 p.m. Enjoy your first full day of summer today, and we'll see you all in Helena in a few weeks. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.